Hey everyone, you've reached us on a Sunday night where we should be relaxing, but there's no rest for the wicked. So there should be no rest for those who try to, if you will, air the dirty laundry of the wicked. And one of these individuals is Allison Gill. You know your lover. Mother, she wrote, this is her, and also the host of the daily political podcast, Daily Beans, where you get your political news with some colorful swear words. And perfect timing because I had just done a Blue Sky post. Hey, friends, who should I talk to this week? And right as I posted that, Allison sent me her article and said, hey, I wrote this. Can you share it? I said, well, we should be relaxing on a Sunday, but Allison, will you come on and talk to us? Hey, Melissa from San Jose, I'm from the Bay. Welcome. And so Allison has a great piece out on her Substack that you all should go over and subscribe to. It's the Epstein Cover-Up at the FBI. And the framing of tonight's conversation is how the Trump administration is trying and failing to cover up the Epstein scandal. And if you all just joined us while we're in mid-conversation, I was telling Allison, oh, look, the New York Times, the masthead right now, the entire top half is about Epstein and the women who accused Donald Trump of sexual assault and how Republicans, Democrats are calling for a release of the Epstein Files. I wonder what happened. And my theory about this is not theory, but I'm going to go out and just say it, is because the corporate institutions bend the knee, because Democrats are cowards, it was up to MAGA and independent journalists, Allison, to finally give permission to the corporate media structure to finally look at the story that was right in front of their face. Folks, and as Alice and I have been talking, we said, I think a couple of weeks ago, this story ain't going away because MAGA has been radicalized. And folks, this story is just, it's leaking now. And Allison, I want you to break down what you uncovered in your piece. And a starting point, if you don't mind, is your tweet from, it was like a day and a half ago. And this tweet where you said, if you're one of the 1,000 FBI agents who reviewed the Epstein files, feel free to reach out to me via Signal. I'll keep you anonymous, as I have the thousands of current and former federal workers who have sent me tips. Please share this widely. And voila, some people actually reached out to you. Allison.
Yeah, this kind of happened, like I started doing this sort of crowdsourcing journalism back when federal workers started to become, get fired at alarming rates, saying, hey, reach out to me if you're a federal worker. I want to share your stories. And I started sharing their stories, and folks started trusting in that and building on that, along with all the listeners of the Daily Beans. Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for listening to Dana Goldberg and I. There's a lot going on here because last week, I think it was on Thursday, which was John Lewis Day, by the way. It was Good Trouble Thursday. I had spoken to a lawyer friend of mine who's helping me sue Doge for, to get them to be able to be FOIA'd through a Freedom of Information Act request. And we decided, since Trump had given Pam Bondi permission to release pertinent Epstein grand jury testimony transcripts.
I'm glad you put pertinent in quotes. Thank you. I've been the only one doing that so far, but continue.
That we would hold them to that. So Thursday, Good Trouble Day, he filed on my behalf, on behalf of MSW Media and the Daily Beans, a request to get all of the Epstein grand jury transcripts, pursuant to the fact that Donald Trump just waived any kind of deliberative process privilege or any kind of other privilege that the DOJ would usually step in and try to stop if a judge allows those things to be released in the first place. And it was around that time that I read that Dick Durbin had written a letter to Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and Dan Bongino saying, hey, I had somebody come and tell my office that you instructed 1,000 FBI analysts and personnel to comb through 100,000 pages of Epstein files and flag mentions of Donald Trump in those files. And so that's when I put that tweet out or a Blue Sky post out. I don't tweet. And I said, hey, if you're one of the 1,000, because Marcy Wheeler reminded us, oh, that's interesting. 1,000 new witnesses. Very cool. Thank you. And so I said, if you're one of the 1,000, reach out. You read that post. And I started getting information from people. And I spoke at length to one former FBI analyst who was tasked with going through these files. And he explained the whole process to me. I should say they, because I'm not even sure their gender. But I verified that they worked there. I know how to do that because I used to work for the federal government, um, and also triangulated the information to confirm it as real, and found out that there is in fact an Excel spreadsheet that exists that has all of the mentions by serial document number and page number of Donald Trump
Mhm.
in Epstein Files, about 300,000 pages, 100,000 documents, because documents can have multiple pages. But also, what I found out was that there were more than 1,000 eyes on these files because of the hurried, slapdash, idiotic, and incompetent nature of this particular administration. Those files were not usually when you do a shared folder on a system like at the FBI, at the Bureau, you give each individual specific permission to go in, and because it's a your eyes only type job. They didn't do that. So everybody in the entire um, information management division there and at the New York field office had access to these files.
And
And then
Allison, could they just share it with other people also, potentially?
uh, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they had permission to share, but they had permission to view. I didn't ask that. That'll be the next question I ask. Because the third thing I found out was not only is there an Excel spreadsheet, because every day they would have to go in and do certain things. The orders were constantly changing because they kept finding out that everything they wanted to do was illegal. So the orders kept constantly changing. And if you were an analyst and you were there to flag Trump mentions, you didn't do it in the document. Like if you were going to recommend a redaction for like to hide somebody's name or social security number, they did it in a separate Excel spreadsheet. And then at the end of their sometime 24 hours, sometimes 48-hour long shift, they would upload that, send that, their what they found, and then someone up high who I wasn't able to get the name of would stitch all those together in one giant shared Excel file. So that log
Awesome.
exists. That log
Awesome.
exists, and it's been touched by a million people and viewable by everybody in the entire division. And then the other thing is that they put out training videos because normally the RID's office that does the FOIA requests does these kind of redactions and document reviews and information reviews. But because Patel and Pam Bondi wanted to put the 1,000 people on it, these are folks that aren't necessarily trained on how to look for 6E exceptions in grand jury testimony or PII or legal definitions of things that need to be redacted in documents that are going to be released to the public. So they did these training videos embedded in PowerPoint presentations uh, of them actually instructing on how to flag Donald Trump mentions in the Epstein files. So those videos also exist in embedded in PowerPoint instructions. And so there's all sorts of now evidence out there that he's in these files and how he was flagged in these files and that people were told to flag him in these files. And I think the amazing thing, Waj, is that since I published this story, which was probably only about 4 hours ago, I've gotten a ton more messages from people, former and current FBI and Department of Justice employees who say, "Yeah, I read your piece. I can confirm it. It's all true." And so you and I have talked about this before with past guests on your show on The Left Hook, that once people have that permission structure,
Mm,
and once people have that, it inspires other people to
right.
speak out. So now I'm getting more information, and we'll probably write follow-ups to this. But that was a lot of really interesting, first of all, confirmation of what Senator Dick Durbin is asking Pam Bondi and Dan Bongino and Kash Patel about, but also a look behind the curtain as to how these folks and what these folks were told to do. And I also just want to say, on behalf of all the people that I spoke to, they did not want to do this.
Mm,
They didn't want to be a part of this. They thought it was they were being misused as personnel for what their jobs are, and they wanted to impart on other folks that at the FBI we aren't Trump supporters, we aren't Biden supporters. We're here to do a job. And when they were asked to not redact names of victims and personally identifiable information of victims
Mm.
to give to Kash Patel and Pam Bondi, they pitched a fit and objected and finally got a lawyer to agree, okay, flag them for redaction, and Pam Bondi will make the ultimate decision on whether or not to redact those. But to it would be speculation on my part to wonder what allies of Donald Trump want with the names and personally identifiable information of the victims, but that sounds very suspicious to me, and it was also to these analysts and agents and personnel.
I mean, I can go on a limb and make a prediction that they would try to intimidate them and threaten them into silence, which is what the victims of Epstein and his cabal of pedophiles have endured over the past several years. Front page right now of the New York Times is an accuser's story suggests how Trump might appear in the Epstein files. A former Epstein employee said that she told the FBI in 1996 and 2006 about what she considered a troubling encounter with President Trump. This is about a sexual assault and groping. Furthermore, the Netflix documentary, The Epstein Files, which also features interviews with Vicky Ward and survivors. For years, we know that they went to the FBI, they reported to law enforcement, and the trail went nowhere. Nothing happened. They expected some follow up. They expected a prosecution. Nope. In fact, Alex Acosta, who, surprise, surprise, ended up as Trump's labor secretary, gave Jeffrey Epstein a quote sweetheart deal where essentially he had to admit and publicly say that he was a sex offender. But if I remember correctly, Allison, he got to go to jail. What was that? 1 day a week? And commit pedophilia 6 days a week and continue on with his life. And now we have the Florida Attorney General, who is now Donald Trump's Attorney General, Pam Bondi, who promised. She said on TV, "We have all the clips. I have the files on my desk." And now those files, well, she says, Allison, oh, I was talking about something else. And then we found out, because we have eyes and we remember, that all these freaks were invited to the White House, people like Mike Cernovich and Libs of TikTok, and they emerged triumphant with those giant binders. Remember that, Allison? And people are like, well, what's in the binders? Well, don't you worry about it. And apparently, nothing's in the binders because
Oh.
Dan Bongino and Kash Patel, who were the promoters of the QAnon conspiracy, who helped promote the Epstein conspiracy, who helped promote the completely dangerous, radicalizing deep state conspiracy, are now part of the deep state. And now they're saying, Allison, don't y'all worry about it. Forget everything we've said for the past 10 years. Trust us. Epstein killed himself. The 2 minutes and 50 seconds that are missing from the video, not shady at all. Donald Trump isn't mentioned. There's no files. There's no list. And I want to remind people that Mother Jones just republished an article from 5 years ago in which, quote, Epstein's little black book totals 97 pages containing 1,571 names and roughly 5,000 phone numbers. At least 38 names are mysteriously circled, including, anyone want to take a guess? Donald Trump's. Quote, I got my hands on the copy, writes the reporter Leland Nally, and I made close to 2,000 phone calls. And now, again, when it comes to the New York Times front page, it ain't just Democrats calling for release of more Epstein files. Republicans are as well. Allison, what do you think this week will bring?
I'm not sure. Probably more drip drip from the Wall Street Journal now. Now that Rupert Murdoch and the journalists are rigorously defending their reporting. But I wanted to say something really quick about Acosta. Yeah, he got that cushy labor secretary job. But did you know last month he got a deal to sit on the board with Newsmax, which Truth Social and Trump Media are now starting to stream? So he's being
Uh,
rewarded again for something else, and it came right around the time that Pam Bondi and decided not to release anything from the files. And I think what also kind of stood out, and I don't think this made it into the article, but I am allowed to share this, is that when these analysts and agents in the FBI were told to give unredacted victim names and personally identifiable information to Kash Patel and Dan Bongino and Pam Bondi, they were told, and I'm quoting here, and I may be paraphrasing because I'm not looking directly at it. Don't think of it as releasing their names to the public. think of it as releasing their names to Pam Bondi,
Mm,
to the Attorney General.
mm.
And that was the lip service they were given in order to quell their concern that they weren't redacting those names. Now, eventually, the order came down to redact the names. Then the order came down to redact the PII. Then Department of Justice lawyers started coming in and making sure they were redacting things properly. It seems like somebody with a legal degree might have gotten involved. That's also speculation. And then they said to redact any instances of illicit descriptions. For example, there was an analyst who saw photos. A lot of these files have photos to back up certain victim testimony about on the island where Epstein had brought all these models in. They were all clearly minors, and did a photo shoot, and then instructed them all to completely undress and pose on rocks on the beach. And I was told that viewing a lot of these images and watching a lot of these videos and testimony was hard. It was traumatic and very difficult. And they were told, "Hey, you have access to counselors here at the FBI if you need them." Again, so sort of more lip service. But what's going to come this week is we're going to continue to see products of the incompetence of this administration. I was texting you before we jumped on here when we decided to be masochists like we are and talk about this on our Sunday evening. It brought up the way that they handled these Epstein files, put them on drives that everybody had access to, slapdash, Keystone Cop, FUBAR shit. It reminded me of when John Eastman sent a email that had in the subject line, "You got any more of those pardons?" or something to that effect. Or when when one of them emailed another and actually said, "Maybe we shouldn't call them fraudulent electors. Maybe we should call them alternate electors." And like they just write it all down.
Yeah,
What logic?
or when he calls Brad Raffensperger and literally says, "Can you find me the exact number of votes to get me the state of Georgia?" Like literally, audio that we've heard.
And then threatens him with crimes, which
Or
he's
or
now
when
just
he says, "I'm gonna," quotes Hitler and says, "I'm gonna sick the National Guard and military on the enemy from within," and then lo and behold, when he becomes president, does just that and unleashes his Gestapo. I've always said,
the
Allison, that
hypocrisy, but Waj, I wanted to just finish by saying I
yeah, yeah,
don't
please,
understand. There's so much incompetence, and I think it's going to be the thing that brings them down. But they never get held accountable for anything, and I think that has a lot to do with our corrupt Supreme Court, who makes all of those decisions about accountability and whether or not the president is immune from any of this stuff. But I think this week we're going to continue. I think the Wall Street Journal has more. That's,
yeah.
again, purely speculation. I haven't been told that but I think they have more, and I think they're going to continue to release it drip by drip. And this lawsuit should be interesting. They should do the head of lettuce next to the lawsuit to see which lasts longer, because no way this is getting to discovery.
Oh yeah, no, never, never. What I mean, this is where I'm gonna be, if I may, not conspiratorial, but let me be a little bit more blunt, and if I may bring out the knives a bit. All this information was public for years. This is nothing new. Documentaries have been made about this. Julie Brown, a fantastic reporter of the Miami Herald.
Julie Brown was all over this in 2018.
Yep, for 7 years. Women have come out for years. Donald Trump, we have video of him partying with Epstein. We have audio of him saying, "Oh yeah, Epstein, great guy. Likes the girls a bit young though, right?" Now we have stories coming out that, and he said he's been, great guy, Jeffrey Epstein, great guy, right? I wish him luck when it comes to his trial, right? Who says that? And this is a person who knew Jeffrey Epstein since the late 80s. That means they partied since 80s, 90s, and into about 2004, 2005, and had to breaking out over a real estate deal. And Jeffrey Epstein, as we know, as Michael Wolff, the reporter, has shown through the audio tape, said that at one time he was Donald Trump's closest friend. All right. So this has all been public, folks. The women, the victims, I think we have to talk about the victims because we, meaning America, has forgotten about the victims. There are multiple victims, so many women traumatized. One woman, forgive me, I'm forgetting her name, who has been trying to raise the alarm for years, who killed herself by suicide last year. If
Virginia
anyone knows,
Giuffre. Virginia
yeah,
Giuffre.
Virginia Giuffre, right? And so many women's lives have been shattered. So this has not been hidden, Allison. What I want to tell people is that this has been a deliberate, almost nationwide complicit effort to just sweep this away because Donald Trump has become president. You had corporate media who could have actually talked about this nonstop, but they focus on Biden's age. You could have, oh, I don't know, brought this up, but they chose not to curry favor with Donald Trump, who's their new king and daddy, right? Bezos and Sam Altman and Elon Musk and all these people. Elon Musk knew this. Why did he not bring it up? Well, because for $300 million, he got to come in through Doge and just dismantle the government and his enemies and deregulate, right?
And steal
All
all
of
our
these
data
ancillary data, all
and
these individuals
proprietary
knew,
data of other businesses that he competes with.
all these institutions knew. Democrats now, Republicans, you don't worry, folks. Republicans are already trash, so we already know that. But I'm going to tell you all something. It is because of MAGA. It is MAGA turning on Donald Trump, which is why the story's in the news. It is MAGA being aggressive, which is why the story's in the news. It is MAGA being pissed off why the story's in the news. And I want to remind folks that it was the Democrats being civil. And if you don't believe me, just, oh, I'm sure you saw this, Allison. I think it was now 4 days ago where Nancy Pelosi was being interviewed by Chris Jansen on MSNBC. And she goes, well, let's just not focus on Epstein. Let's focus on bread and butter issues. And then I said, Nancy Pelosi, thank you for your service. You've done fantastic work. You're not built for this fight. You're not made for this moment. Your response to Nancy Pelosi and certain, not all, because some Democrats see where the wind is blowing, but certain Democratic leaders being timid about this story that is driving a huge wedge and is perhaps the number one kryptonite in the past 10 years in Donald Trump and MAGA.
My response to that Nancy Pelosi, I saw it on social media, was "Girl, what?" That was that was all I had. Um, I don't know what else to say because I had been reporting on Epstein since 2018, the Mueller She Wrote podcast, and for everybody to be picking it up now only because MAGA's interested in it. First of all, it's further proof that the media is not liberal. That they are part of the oligarchs. They're part of the ruling class. That's what corporate media is. And when you think about Rupert Murdoch, who is one of the lions of right wing media, who probably wants JD Vance and through Peter Thiel to be in charge of things, never has liked Donald Trump, never has wanted him to really be the standard bearer for the party, although he's made billions of dollars off of him. Now, maybe this is the plan. I don't know that. I do know that JD Vance visited Rupert Murdoch last week.
Mm.
Before all of this came out, before the Wall Street Journal story came out. So I think that's interesting. But this is just more oligarchs who don't like other oligarchs that are trying to out-oligarch the oligarchs. Meanwhile, we're here trying to get the truth out. And
Hmm.
and that is why I'm, first of all, so very thankful to all the people who reached out to me that have reviewed these files, um, former and current FBI and DOJ folks. And like I said, ever since I've published that story, I'm getting a ton more. And so I'm not going to stop talking about it because it should have been talked about 8 years ago.
Yep.
Doesn't mean we shouldn't be talking about it now. These survivors deserve
Yep.
uh, justice in whichever way it comes, whether it's through storytelling and human experience or whether it's through actual justice or civil justice. Sometimes we get civil justice more than we get criminal accountability in this country. Like if we look at E. Jean Carroll or what Tish James did with the $450 million settlement, sometimes that is the best way to go. But I don't think this particular one is going to stop. And I'm not going to back off of it because it's oligarchs being mad at oligarchs.
Absolutely. And you shouldn't back off because your intention is to get the truth out and to actually help the victims of these two predators, one who died and one who's now the president of the United States, a man who was held liable for sexual assault of E. Jean Carroll and defamation and has double-digit numbers of credible sexual assault allegations. A man who, during a Howard Stern interview, when he was called a predator, and Don Jr. and Ivanka were there, he said yes and laughed. A man who bragged about grabbing women by the pee, a man who allegedly raped his own wife because he was so furious at her that she recommended that transplant surgeon, and he wasn't happy. A man who has treated women like dirt, and a man who has partied with Jeffrey Epstein. We know because he has admitted it. Jeffrey Epstein admitted it, and we have the videos, and there are a bunch of other videos. And we know that MAGA has been radicalized for 10 years to believe, folks. And, I've been talking about this for the last week, but I just want to stress this because we've normalized something that shouldn't be normal. MAGA has been radicalized vis-a-vis Pizzagate, but then really through QAnon, which is a deep state on steroids, that the rest of us, anybody who's liberal, who's against Donald Trump, is not just a pedophile. And Allison and I are old enough to remember that if you used to call someone a pedophile, kids, those were fighting words. If someone called you a pedophile, a person who never fought would be like, I'm going to fight you. What's worse than being a pedophile? A murderous pedophile. What's worse than being a murderous pedophile? A devil-worshipping murderous pedophile. What's worse than being a devil-worshipping murderous pedophile? A devil-worshipping murderous pedophile who's part of an international sex trafficking ring. That's what Kash Patel, Bongino, Pam Bondi, right-wing politicians and media have openly and deliberately brainwashed the base through QAnon to believe that the rest of us are part of this cabal. It has radicalized people to commit violence against their family members, against individuals. Vance Bolter, finally a piece came out yesterday. That guy who was radicalized, a Trump supporter who had a hit list of 70 liberals, shot 4 of them, killed 2 people. Melissa Hortman, a state former speaker, state representative, he was in part radicalized by QAnon, right? So this is what they have been saying about the rest of us. And once you radicalize your base to thinking, and think about it, folks, a lot of folks who are MAGA vote Trump. You know them, I know them. Not all of them have horns on their head or, completely unhinged. They're just people, but they believe that there's literally a pedophile ring. So they want to save the kids. And so they were promised, folks, red meat. They were promised that once Donald Trump became president again, that he would finally reveal the deep state link. And the deep state link was going to be revealed through who? Jeffrey Epstein. And that's QAnon. QAnon said that only one person can eliminate the deep state, Donald Trump. So they have now turned on their base. You know how I know he shook, Allison? He called his base weaklings. He called them his past supporters. He's tried to distract with Rosie O'Donnell. He's brought up Obama. I don't know if you saw 30 minutes ago, he posted an AI video of Obama being arrested. Earlier today, he brought back racism with the Redskins and the Cleveland Indians. Over the weekend, a couple of days ago, was Breonna Taylor. He's like a band that has no new hits, can only play the classics, nothing sticking. And folks, poll came out today, lowest numbers ever. He's negative 11 now. Immigration, upside down. Tariffs, upside down. So I believe, Alice, that what you're witnessing with the Republican Party and talking about, going off what you said with J.D. Vance, they haven't brought out the knives yet. I see them sharpening the knives.
Mm-hmm.
Your take?
Yeah, no, I agree. If I'm going to put some beans on it, which is my old conspiratorial, I'm about to give you some wild
Put on
tinfoil
the tin hat.
conjecture. I think that they are moving to try to get rid of Trump as the head of the MAGA movement, the new fascist party, the new America party, whatever it is. But I think that they underestimate how much people hate J.D. Vance.
I agree. I agree.
Like they made the political calculation error that they thought that people would really enjoy mass deportation. And they do until it's their neighbors and not criminals, right? That's the key part of that. And I always reference Jelani Cobb, who reminded us that the Slave Act back in the Civil War days, that everybody who was against it, they were not all abolitionists. Um, they were just people who didn't want to see their neighbors snatched out of their communities. And that kind of broke the idea there. And so, because I think his quote was that the fundamental unit in civic society is neighbor.
Mm.
And like that quote just rocks me to my core. And so I I think that along with that tragic miscalculation of that they thought everybody was going to like mass deportation, which they don't. I think they're miscalculating that people are going to be okay with JD Vance taking over the MAGA movement. I don't think there's anybody who can, and if they remove Trump, it will fracture.
I agree.
I don't know what it will end up looking like because there's still a ton of terrible people. There's still a basket of deplorables out there that'll be looking for a home, but uh, it will be fractured. I don't know that it can be repaired. The Republican Party likes to destroy itself every 60 years or so. So we're due.
I agree with you. I think this is going to be a Julius Caesar moment, and knowing the Republican Party, and also knowing people in DC, not just Republicans but Democrats, everyone wants to be king or queen. They believe that JD Vance can be installed. Nobody respects JD Vance. Nobody. They see him as a fraud. They see him as a fool. They know he has a brown wife. They know he has brown kids. They laugh at him. They know he's like this rich boy. They see him cosplaying as being a tough guy. I mean, did you see him run at Disneyland? Nobody in MAGA respects this guy. Okay. So they're going to come for JD Vance, and it's going to be a MAGA civil war. As this MAGA civil war is happening, the country is going to go to shit. The type of damage that has been done in 6 months has been generational, folks. Generational. Donald Trump also doesn't look right, Allison. Those cankles, him sleeping. He's a 79-year-old man, folks. He's the oldest person to ever be elected president. He's fallen asleep. Joe Biden's old too. When it came to the Pope Francis's funeral, only one world leader fell asleep. You want to take a guess? Donald Trump. All right. So this is a death rattle that is going to turn into a death march. I don't underestimate Vance because Vance is groomed by Peter Thiel. I don't underestimate Thiel, but I agree with Allison. There was a comment here said, don't underestimate Vance. I don't think he has it, folks. I've been following it for a while. It was like Ron DeSantis. I remember everyone tried to sell me on Ron DeSantis. I went on television and I said, I'm going to make a prediction. He's a wet noodle. He's going to be limp. And that's what happened, right? So
Yeah,
I
don't
don't think.
underestimate Teal. I'll give you that, and I
Yeah,
will not underestimate Teal or his money or the backing of these fascists, Nazis in Silicon Valley. But I do underestimate Vance,
yeah. What do
or
you recommend?
overestimate. I did.
I do too. I don't overestimate Vance, and if I'm wrong, I'll eat halal crow. Uh, but I'm pretty sure MAGA sees through them also, folks. What should Democrats do, Allison? Because I disagree with Nancy Pelosi. Nancy, you did well. You made a lot of money. It's time to retire. I think you use this to drive the wedge, fracture, fracture, fracture. I'm not saying this is the haymaker. Clearly, this is kryptonite. The man is freaking out. He is pissed off. The fact that Wall Street Journal, to circle back on what you said, the fact that Wall Street Journal was threatened, folks, by this is what happened for those who missed the news. Yeah, Wall Street Journal released the article about the alleged letter they have in which Donald Trump drew a nudie at said a whole bunch of salacious things to Jeffrey Epstein for his 50th birthday. Wall Street Journal, wink, wink, was the one that leaked to people that had this article. Donald Trump called the editor of Wall Street Journal, threatened her. They said, nah, we're still going to publish it. They published it. Donald Trump threatened to sue. He's now sued for $10 billion. Wall Street Journal said, we stand firm with our reporting. They're not stupid. Rupert Murdoch would not have put out the article if he was not 1,000% sure he had the goods because he knows Donald Trump. The fact that Rupert Murdoch, who owns the Wall Street Journal, oh, you know, that flaming leftist communist rag, the Wall Street Journal, the fact that they put out this article was, to me, a little shit because they've radicalized their base. And what they love more than Trump is money. And Dan Bongino's and the Joe Rogans and these other folks know that their base is radicalized and wants that red meat. and they ain't going to give up money for Donald Trump. And they see where the base is trending, right? So they're like, let's see how much we could get away with. Oh, our base still wants more. Okay. So I think this is going to weaken him as he gets older, more desperate, more tired. His numbers are going to fall. We still haven't even talked about the implementation of the billionaire bill. That's going to be effing disastrous for America. What should Democrats do to hasten the demise, or widen the fractures?
I think that, like a couple of Democrats aside, I think that they're doing actually a better job on this than they have in the past on other things.
Yep.
We see Senator Dick Durbin, Milk Toast Dick Durbin, who I've been yelling at for years to subpoena people and do things when he had the majority, has written those letters about the Epstein Files. We see Raskin and House Judiciary Dems writing letters demanding the release of all the Epstein Files, along with Volume 2 of Jack Smith's report. We see, Hakeem Jeffries is talking about it on all the shows that he goes on. Folks who I've been hoping would step up a little bit more, are in
Yeah.
this. I see them doing that here, and I want them to continue to do that. And I would also maybe like to see them maybe even take the gloves off a little bit more. Wyden, for example, in Oregon, has been doing
Yep.
an investigation into the suspicious activity reports from places like Deutsche Bank and J.P. Morgan and Chase about $1.5 billion traveling through those banks on suspicious activity reports to Jeffrey Epstein. And he's been looking into Leon Black. I would like to just release that stuff.
Yep.
Use your speech or debate privilege like Scott Perry used his to not be subpoenaed for his phone records for January 6th, and release some of this stuff. That's what I would like to see. Now, I'm sure there's probably huge legal reasons why, this can't happen because of Rule 6E or, the normal regular order of things, which we are trying to get back to, and it would be hard to get back to it if we circumvent it. But take those gloves off, keep doing what they're doing, and do as much as they can with the information that they have. That's what I would like to see. And also, the other thing that Democrats need to do is get on board with Mamdani. I don't understand the resistance to that. That's just
I
an
understand
aside.
it. I understand it. But like what I posted on Blue Sky earlier today was eventually, folks, Gillibrand, Schumer, and Jeffries are gonna line up for Mamdani. They might not like it, they might be pissed off, but they'll sit there and grimace and smile, and they gonna do it because he ain't going anywhere. He has the people. You have Silva and Cuomo running. He's gonna win. And the fact that they're trying their best to drag this out is a terrible reflection on them, Allison. And it's inevitable. This is the old guard trying their best to crush an ascendant star. And people are like, nope. And the more and more they listen to the corporate donors and APAC. And by the way, did you see that shameful photo that Schumer, Klobuchar, Coons, Schiff, Booker, and a few others took with Netanyahu last week?
No.
Netanyahu, when he was visiting, there was a bipartisan photo, and those were some of the Democrats who sat there smiling, taking a photo with freaking war criminal Netanyahu.
Okay.
Yeah. So I agree with, yeah, I know. I agree with you, Schumer. Like, and Schumer, like, Schumer thinks like somehow this is like a birthright. Like he'll hand, like, I always do this quote because I'm old. I like these quotes, like that quote of Charlton Heston when he became the president of the NRA. He held on the rifle. You're gonna have to pry this from my cold, dead hands. That's how they hanging on to power. I'm like, Mamdani's there, bro. And I don't think he's gonna have to pry it. You're gonna have to give it to him. Jump on the bandwagon. The fact that they still haven't endorsed him, it's remarkable to me, Allison. But this is the Democratic Party, folks. This is why it has a lower favorability right now than Donald Trump. Donald Trump is like 38. The Democratic Party, unfortunately, is at 29%. And I criticize them because I need them to do better. because right now they're the only opposition party.
That's it.
And we
We shouldn't abandon them. We have to push them to do better. And I think we're starting to see that at least a little bit with these Epstein stories in the Epstein files. So
Ro Khanna, you widen, you're right. A bunch Durbin, that's why the ones who are doing good work, I give them props, man. So I hope they can get their mojo back, and I hope they can support Mamdani. This is what you do. Republicans what would they do? They supported Marjorie Taylor Greene, folks, the freak show. You can support Mamdani, all right? Allison, thank you for your time. I'll give you the final word to you. What do you want to tell folks?
To subscribe to my Substack, it's free because tomorrow I have an exclusive with a former Department of Justice employee who was fired in retaliation by the Department of Justice and also happens to be the wife of the developer of the Ice Block app. So
Ah.
I'll be speaking with her on the Daily Beans tomorrow, and I'll be writing it up on Substack. Again, it's always free. I appreciate if you are able to become a paid subscriber, but just like you, Waj, everything we do, we put out for free. Information needs to be out there for free. And thanks to everybody who does and is able to subscribe, because you really, really help us do these reports and talk to these people and have these exclusives and to be able to not only that, but have a big enough voice to push the corporate media to do the right
Yeah.
thing and to push our
Yep.
Democratic electeds to do the right thing.
Actually, one final question. Do you ever think that this Trump administration will truly release the files, documents, evidence related to Epstein?
The people that I spoke to on the condition of anonymity were very confused. They thought they were helping scrub these files so that they could be of Trump and victims' names and PII and illicit details. They thought they were helping scrub these files so that they could be released. And nobody has an answer as to why they weren't. Nobody has an answer as to why Bondi and decided there's nothing to see here. We can only speculate about that. And my speculation has long been that once you scrub everything from the files, people are going to be mad that there's nothing there. Just like they were mad about the binders that were released. I think that was the test balloon. Like, if we release a bunch of innocuous stuff, is anybody going to notice? Yeah,
Yeah.
they will.
Yeah.
And so that's the one thing I couldn't get an answer to was why they didn't release them. And the only other thing I can think of is because all of those a-holes that are co-conspirators to Jeffrey Epstein have immunity. They were given immunity by Acosta, who was given a job as labor secretary by Donald Trump.
And I'm gonna go and say that they're never gonna release it, ever, because it's not just Donald Trump, but follow the money. There's a money trail there, and there's also a lot of powerful people, and they've put themselves in a bind, folks, and it's a delicious bind to see. They deliberately promoted this conspiracy theory to radicalize their base to commit violence against the rest of us. Some of them did. People like Vance Bolter, folks. Yes, he believed in the QAnon conspiracy. Ashley Babbitt and others. They gave their base red meat. They transformed them into Frankenstein's monster, and now Frankenstein's monster has been released and is going after their creators. Whoopsie.
They hoped they would forget about it, I guess.
And nope. And so I don't think he's ever going to release it. But this is where some whistleblowers, this is where leaks, this is where people like Allison doing the good work and reaching out to these people and them reaching out to her and trusting her and publishing this information. This is how I think it's going to get out, because too many people are pissed off. Because, folks, again, this is about pedophiles. And if there's one thing unites everyone, it's like pedophiles suck, right? And so you radicalize your base and you try to protect Epstein. It's bipartisan. You got support from liberals and conservatives and Democrats and Republicans. I believe you share my sentiment, Allison. I've said I don't give a shit who's on that list. If it's Clinton, if Prince Andrew, Bill Gates, I don't care. Whoever's on that list, and if it's proven that they were complicit in helping Epstein become a predator and prey on young women, F them all to hell.
Yeah,
F
I
them
don't
all to hell.
defend child rapers because I'm not a Republican.
I was thinking you're going to say I'm not a sociopath, but in today's day and age, because you're not MAGA. Folks, this has been the Left Hook. I'm with Mother She Wrote's Allison. Everything's for free. We have no paywalls. If you can, at the very least, become a subscriber. If you have a few dollars, please become a paid subscriber. That's what helps keep the lights on. I have a bunch of kids. Allison doesn't sleep. She has the Daily Beans podcast, Mother She Wrote. She does like 47,000 shows. She has another exclusive coming out tomorrow. This conversation for the 1,500 who joined us is about 45 minutes long. It'll be up in about 30 minutes. Strongly recommend listening it from the start because Allison dropped some gems, but she also is talking about her latest scoop that was just published earlier today, the Epstein Cover-Up at the FBI, which is on MotherSheWrote.com. I'll link to it in the write-up. Folks, until then, next time we meet, be kind, be empathetic, and please, oh, please don't be a fascist. Thank you, Allison. Rest, rest.